Welcome, everyone, to All Women Driven, the podcast about women in automotive and how they got to where they are today. I'm your host, Sarah Davis. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, or Spotify with All Women Driven or Beauty Mama Bear. You can also find me on the Lon MacArthur YouTube channel with Tim Bartz. We do a podcast and a few other videos there. If you do like my channel, you should also check out the Ford Video Guy channel. He blogs about all of the things that he does to his vehicles, and going on his journey of off-roading and learning all about that community. If you should also check out All Terrain Nation, RagnarCon, and Johnny's Car Can Reviews. I will have a few others in the description, but that's just to name our favorites. And then don't forget to like and share where you're listening and hit that notification bell so that way you know when I am posting these every 2 weeks on Thursday around 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So let's get into this. This week we have Jill. Hi.
Hello.
So Jill, first off, how do you say your last name?
Ciminillo.
Ciminillo. All right. Perfect. And then what do you do in automotive?
Many things. So I'm a classically trained journalist, and I started out in newspapers. So my first love is writing, but as the video age has crept in, I have started to do video, TikTok, podcasts, all the things.
Yeah. Great. So what channels are you on?
So Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk is my primary channel. And then I have my own YouTube channel that is just my name, Jill Ciminillo. But I also use the hashtag car du jour. So kind of like soup du jour. It's what I'm driving today. So if anybody were looking for me on any social media out there, because I'm probably on it, if you don't know how to spell my last name, because there's a lot of I's, you can always search for car du jour and you can usually find me that way.
Okay, perfect. So, do you have any side hobbies or gigs that you do with this as well?
So I also participate in the Rebel Rally. And I noticed you did an episode a couple of weeks ago with Melissa Clark, and she is one of my favorite humans.
Yes.
She's amazing. And so, but yeah, so I do the Rebel Rally every year, and I am contemplating my strategy for this year. So.
Okay. So have you always been in automotive, or well, you said you came from journalist background. Did you have a goal to be in automotive journalism?
No. No, I did not. So I went to the University of Missouri and graduated. That was kind of before they had like modules, and now they have like a multimedia journalist module. But so I was like a print journalist with an online focus because the web and the Googles were just starting to be big because I'm old. And but I've always been a big believer in seeing the writing on the wall and understanding, like saying yes to an opportunity and understanding where things are moving. And so I was working in newspapers, and it was actually a weekly newspaper in the suburbs of Chicago. And I was in what they call the niche publishing department. And essentially that's code for everything the union doesn't want to do. So the automotive section was there, the lifestyle section was there, fashion, real estate, but we also did like maps, community guides, and things like that. And the automotive editor quit, and my boss calls me into her office, and she's like, "So, you've got a master's in journalism, right?" I'm like, "I do." And she goes, "Do you want to be the automotive editor?" And I'm like, so here's the thing. I don't know anything about cars. She's like, "That's fine. I just need you to edit and design the section, make sure there aren't any swear words, and get it out on time every week." And I was like, okay, so when do you need my decision by? And she's like, "Now." And I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "By the time your butt leaves that chair, I need your answer." And I was like, let's see. I'm currently called a marketing coordinator, and then I would be called automotive editor. I think that title sounds better. So yes, I will do that. Yeah. And kind of took me a couple years to get up to speed. I subscribed to like Road and Track, Car and Driver, looked at the Chicago area journalists who were writing about cars for newspapers. So that was Jim Matea and Dan Jedlicka. There were no women. Yeah. So I just started to kind of read about it. And I was, after a couple of years, I was like, I could do this. And I got a call from a Rolls-Royce dealership.
Okay.
And they're like, so we have a Rolls Royce Phantom here, and it's the only one in the United States. And we'd like you to come out and drive it and write about it. And I was like, okay. And and I like knew nothing about this car, and I'm thinking, man, this is probably like $100,000 car, and it's really bougie and expensive. And I get there, and I'm like, I did like a written review. I brought a photographer, and I go back and I actually started looking at the specs. I'm like, oh, this is a $500,000 car.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm glad I didn't know that before, because I would have been even more intimidated than I was. But
Yeah.
it was, so that like was the story that launched my career. And then, I had people saying, oh, you do test drives? Do you want to drive this? Do you want to drive that? Do you want to go here? Do you want to, travel to
Yeah.
this location to do that, drive this really cool car? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I want to do all of that.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Um, so you probably didn't have family in automotive or nothing. Okay.
Nope, nothing. My dad he worked for a pharmaceutical company. My
Okay.
sister's a photographer designer, so she's like kind of in journalism that way. And my other sister is in marketing and in business, and so I'm just like, nope, no automotive background whatsoever.
Okay. So coming into the automotive world, you said there weren't any women.
Not really.
Uh, so was it hard to work with the men, or were they, kind and nice and like, come into this world and join us? Or what was your experience with it?
So my experience was probably not normal, because I'll be honest, at the time I didn't realize how weird and unusual it was to be like a woman in automotive. And there were a couple of pioneers who were out there, Sue Mead, Jean Jennings, and Denise McCluggage. So there were some women, but not like anybody in my sphere. And I just thought of myself as a journalist doing a job. And so, I would attend these meetings, and it took me a while to realize, oh, there's nobody who looks like me here. But and so at first I didn't realize that it was weird or different, or that there weren't a lot of women. And so I was just like, all right, I'm a journalist. I'm writing about cars. Cool. And then I started to get like a little bit of feedback from some of my readers, and I was just like, all right. And they were like, you write like a 16-year-old girl. And I was like, okay, I don't want that.
Right.
And so I started to reach out to some of my male counterparts, and I was like, look, I'm new to this. I want to learn. I want to be good. I want to put information out there that people want to hear and people want to read. And I would like very much for you to help me do that. And so I found a couple of mentors who are men. They worked for Consumer Guide Automotive, still very, very good friends, Tom Appel and Kirk Bell. And I essentially just sent them my articles, and I was like, rip me apart. Tell me what I'm doing right. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. And, and that just really, really helped me, with my writing, with my style, with moving forward in terms of what I was, essentially going to do with my life.
Yeah.
My life.
I get that. So, on your, so you do the car reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So, where do you get them from dealerships?
Initially I did, but now, so in Chicago, they have what they call fleet managers. And
Yes.
so automakers work directly with a fleet manager to provide journalists, because Chicago is a pretty big market for automotive journalism. Cars.com is based here. Consumer Guide Automotive is here. There's a lot of freelancers who are also based here. So they have fleets of vehicles, and you just reach out to the fleet manager and say, hey, can you set me up with a schedule? Or if there's a specific vehicle you want to drive. So I do a lot of freelance work as well. So like I write for US News, I do some stuff for Car Gurus, and they'll sometimes have a specific vehicle that will be in Chicago that's maybe not anyplace else. And so I'll reach out to my fleet managers and say, hey, do you have the blank? And so then I can request specific vehicles as well.
Okay, perfect. So what is your vehicle preference? Do you have a preference on brand?
I'm such a stereotypical automotive journalist. So my husband and I own a Volkswagen GTI with a manual transmission.
Okay.
The only thing that it's missing is it's not brown. That's like the joke in the industry is that our automotive journalists want hatchbacks with a manual transmission and it should be brown. But we have a GTI. We're getting ready to replace it. It's dying a slow and painful death. And we're looking at another like stereotype, Subaru WRX with a manual transmission. I like small cars. I live in a city. I want something to be easy to parallel park, easy to fit in a garage, and manual transmission. My husband and I think that was part of our wedding vows is we will not own an automatic transmission vehicle.
All right. So you're into the off-road community. So you do Rebel Rally. How many years have you done that?
I've done it 3 years now.
Okay, great. And who was your partner?
So my partner was Kristen Shaw, who is another automotive journalist. In the first 2 years we did it, we drove the Hyundai Santa Cruz. So a little trucklet, as I like to call it. So compact truck in the all-wheel drive category. I heard Melissa talking about she was in the Bronco Sport, and so it's really tough terrain in a car that doesn't have the ground clearance of like a regular Ford Bronco. And but it was, it's one of those things that just really hones your skills and makes you adapt. And so the first 2 years we were in the X Cross class, and like I said, those are all-wheel drive cars, usually not body on frame. They're more of the unibody construction, don't have lockers or anything like that. And then last year we competed in the Ram RHO, sponsored by Ram. And we were the first people to drive the truck that weren't part of the company, and we were the first journalists to drive the truck. And so we couldn't talk about it because everything was like driving impressions were under embargo. And so it was really funny because they would come up and they'd be like, "How's the truck?" And we're like, "Great." They're like, "Do you want to elaborate?" We're like, "Nope."
That is hard.
Yeah.
Like, you want to promote the truck, but also I wouldn't understand why a car maker would put someone in a truck and then say, yeah, you can't talk about this while you're driving it.
Well, it makes for great stories afterwards. And so I actually did a review of the RHO for the drive. And they had like a little mini drive program up in Hollyoaks, Michigan. I think that's what that is called, Hollyoaks, Hollyoaks. It's like a little off-road area. And so I attended that for the drive, and then ended up, writing a first drive that incorporated my Rebel experiences. And my biggest takeaway from the drive program was it is more capable than we gave it credit for, and we could have driven that truck a lot harder. But that was a blast to drive.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
How can we encourage women to get more into the community?
I think it's really important for women not to be intimidated, because I think that's like it's like when you go lift weights at a gym and like there's a whole bunch of dudes like doing barbells and things, you tend to get a little bit intimidated. And I think you just have to be like, you know what, I'm going to do my thing. And take a class, do like I think I heard you guys talking about the Bronco off rodeo. There are schools out there, like Land Rover also does some off-road driving schools. Like I know they have one in Biltmore. I think they have 4 or 5 in the United States. And so like do something that's kind of non-threatening just to kind of like dip your toe in and get started. And don't be worried about what other people think. And I think that's a lot of women, go into this and they're like, oh, all these men are looking at me and they're judging me. Who cares? Who cares? You do you, and just have fun with it.
Right. Yeah, I come from a background where both my uncles, my dad, my husband, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law all work at a dealership. And so growing up, I worked at a dealership. And so it's just been for me to grow up in the dealership from an early age. It's just been home. And so for me, it was just natural to be here.
Yeah.
So I haven't really seen the side. Well, and sometimes it's like, oh, well, I remember you as a kid. They don't see the capability that I have now. So I can see that it's like, no, I can talk the talk, guys.
Yeah.
We can do this.
Yeah.
In fact, I might know a little bit more. So
Yeah.
let's tone this down.
Yeah, no, my favorite was when I first started in the automotive industry. I'll be honest, like I did not know how to drive a manual transmission at the very, very beginning of my career.
Okay.
But I made it my mission to learn before I started taking test cars because you never know what they're going to give you.
Yeah.
And so I learned. And then I would attend events and people would be like, "Oh, honey," and they'd like pat me on the head. They're like, "That's a manual transmission." And I'm like, "And?"
Yeah.
And
We like my mom didn't see a reason for me to learn manual transmission. And then I started working here, and every time I needed to move a car, I couldn't. So I'd be like, "Hey, come help me." And then I got to the point where I started doing our photography, and I had to wait sometimes 20 to 30 minutes for someone to come out, move the car in. I pictured it in 15 minutes and then wait another 20 to 30 minutes for them to move it out. And I'm like, I'm done with this.
right.
Teach me. So like I learned on, I think, a
Okay.
Focus manual. But like, yeah. And now I'm like, oh, you don't know how to drive manual. Would you like to learn? I can teach you.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, my husband has always owned manual transmissions, and he was like, the best thing in college was nobody could drive my car, and
Ooh.
he's like, so nobody would ask me to borrow it, and I never had to worry about anybody doing it. And now living in Chicago, we like to call it an anti-theft deterrent
I love
because
it.
people don't know how to drive a manual, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, we have no problems parking out on the street. No one is ever going to steal it.
Because the pesky kids that would steal them don't know. Yeah, I could see that.
Perhaps. Yeah.
So, who or what inspires you?
Oh, so many things. I mean, going back to Rebel, every woman I've ever met at Rebel is flipping awesome. You have women there who are from all walks of life, all walks of life. So you have women who do off-roading for a living, like Melissa or Nina Barlow. You have women who are rocket scientists, like literal rocket scientists who are there and they're just like, yeah, this is what I do for fun. One of my good friends is a flight attendant, and
Okay.
she like takes her vacation. She plans her vacation like every year so that she has 2 weeks off during the Rebel Rally.
Okay.
And so it's like you meet like all of these women who do all of these very disparate, diverse things who come together to do this thing every year, and it's amazing. And you have the opportunity to do things you don't think that you can do, and help people do things they don't think they can do. And so, like, I would say thing number one, everyone I've ever met during the Rebel Rally is super inspiring. And then the woman who founded it, Emily Miller, to me is like my ultimate inspiration, because in addition to providing, I would say, a safe space for women to do this thing, that is typically a male dominated thing, because the Rebel Rally is a women's only off-road navigation competition. She provides this space to learn. She provides the space to do, and she empowers. And she's just so motivating and amazing. And she's like not much taller than I am. She's like 5 feet tall. And she is just a spitfire of energy and positivity. And, the fact that she creates this event year after year and brings more women through, and a lot of women keep coming back because it's so life-changing and empowering, and just such a positive experience. And so I look at Emily Miller and I'm like, that's who I want to be when I grow up, because she's just cool.
Right. Yeah. I hope to be able to join one year soon. Working on navigation. Here in Kansas, we don't have terrain to practice on.
So I'm the navigator.
Okay.
And in Chicago, we have no terrain as either. And my husband, like, he'll just be like, well, just go east. And I'm like, which way is east? And he's like, at the lake. And I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of tall buildings. I do not see water. Like, which way is the lake? And apparently, if you are born and raised in Chicago, that's just an inherent thing that you just know, east is going to be that way. And I'm like, I sit in my office and I'm like, I know which way north is, but I'm still always like, which way is north? Oh yeah, that way. I need to like start putting like north, east, west, south, like on my walls. Oh no. So
Yeah.
I'm challenged, but I love navigating. It's the hardest thing I've
Yeah.
ever done.
Well, I hope to join you on the field at some point. Um, let's see.
Well, and so it's, you speaking of how women can get involved in this, I would
Yeah.
strongly recommend um, go look at rebelrally.com, and they do a
Yeah.
series of what they call Rebel Use.
Mhm.
And they have some online Rebel Use, and then they have in-person Rebel Use where you can and like some of them are in Glamis in the sand dunes down near the Mexican border. Some of them are in Ridgecrest, which is kind of northern California, and you can go in and they will teach you about map rulers and compasses and how to tell north, and they will have you look. So I'm like, you can see like right there
Yeah.
is like all of the routes that we've done for a
Okay.
while, and then I've got like all of my I'm like, I guess it's over the shoulder over here, like all of my Rebel like maps and
Okay.
binders from past years. And but they will show you how to plot longitude and latitude. And then they'll take you out, like again in a safe space, to show you, okay, you've plotted this point on a map, now how do you find it in this wide open space? And so to me, that is it. They can be kind of pricey, but they are so worth the money. um,
Mhm.
I've done at least one or two Rebel U's every year since I first started
Okay.
doing the Rebel. And I just, every time I do it, I learn so much. And so I'm already plotting like what I'm going to do this year.
Awesome. Yep, I always forget to mention the Rebellion.
Yeah.
But thank you. Let's see. We got through my questions quickly.
I apparently didn't talk enough. I did not talk enough.
It's
I'm like,
okay.
I'm like, what else can I tell you? So, it's I can dig into journalism a little bit more
Yeah.
because my philosophy of journalism is you've got to be where people want to receive their message. And so, I started out in newspapers and quickly learned that print was dying. And so I started out if anybody in Chicago will probably know this, at Pioneer Press Newspapers, which was a weekly community newspaper, which was owned by the Chicago Sun-Times. And then I ended up I seeing like a digital producer's job. So like was the automotive editor, but I was like, print is dying and I need to like get into this online space. And so I saw a digital producer that had nothing to do with automotive,
Okay.
and applied for it and went downtown to the Chicago Sun-Times to interview. And the guy's like, "You're interviewing for the wrong job." And I was like, "Oh." And he's like, "We have an online automotive editor's position open." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so
Perfect.
it's funny because it's like every time I try to like spread my wings and like leave automotive, and like it's like the Godfather, it pulls me back in. And
Yeah.
so I ended up being the online automotive editor for the Chicago Sun-Times for a period of time.
Okay.
And then they started their video like platform. And so this is
Okay.
back in like 2007. They were starting their video platform, and they didn't want reporters to like go out and be like, "Here I am on the scene," and because they didn't know what they were doing yet. And they're like, "Jill, automotive, that's like a non-threatening thing to like do video on. Why don't go work with these people and figure this out?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm not supposed to be on camera. I'm a writer." And they're like, "You're cute enough. You'll be fine. Go do that." And I was like, "Okay." So like I helped the Chicago Sun-Times pioneer their video strategy by doing automotive car reviews. And,
Okay.
then, ended up taking a little bit of a break from automotive and worked for a women's online magazine,
Okay.
and realized I missed automotive. And
Yeah.
so and around that time, it was a lot of Twitter, Facebook, social media had just really kind of exploded and
Yeah.
started. And so I started doing like the social media stuff. And the Chicago Tribune was launching a blogging platform,
Okay.
and they're like, "We don't have any automotive people doing blogs. Would you like to do that?" And I was like, sure, why not? And so started blogging, and then so it's just kind of like it's been this very interesting journey where like
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, maybe I'll go over here and do this thing. I was a social media director for a TV company, a broadcast media company for a while
Okay.
I was still doing like the blogging and the social media and automotive. And then we got bought by a bigger company, and they're like, we already have a social media director. What do you want to do? And I was like, let me pioneer an automotive section for you. So it was just like, okay,
Back in it.
why not do that? And
Yeah.
so it's I'm a big believer that you've got to be open to experiences, and if you get an opportunity that scares you, you should take it, because
Yeah.
that's how you grow. And yeah, you make mistakes, and maybe it's not the right fit. When I worked for the women's magazine, that's a period of my life I call the swirling vortex of doom. It was not the right fit. But I learned a lot, I grew, and I benefited from the experience, even though it was like a miserable 9 months of my life.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest takeaway I want to say is women should not be intimidated, and they should say yes. And um, I think more men are understanding than they are demeaning. And
Yes.
and if you put forth a good faith effort and you try, I think that you will be successful. And it's funny because I've driven on racetracks, I've done track training, I've done off-road training,
Okay.
I've done all of the training. And the interesting thing that I've always learned is instructors want to be with women, because they said women listen. And they're like, if I tell you to break, you're going to break. If I tell you to turn, you're going to turn. And men will just be like, I know better than you. And they will just muscle their way through and break the truck, break the car, crash into the wall. And they're like, women aren't like that. They listen, they learn, and they are ultimately much better than men, because they paid attention and they learned the lessons through like actual experience, rather than just trying to muscle their way through the situation. So
Yeah.
I think that's another huge takeaway for women in general is instructors want to work with you. They want to help you, because they know that you're going to pay attention, you're going to listen, and you're going to
Right.
do your thing.
Yeah. So you've done training. Have you done rallycross or any of that?
I've not done rallycross. One of the things that they do during the Rebel is enduro, so time, speed, endurance, where they give you essentially a route book, and they say in 0.3 miles, turn right at the bush. And you're like, but there's bushes everywhere. Which bush is the bush I'm supposed to turn at 0.3 miles? And you have to do it at a prescribed time. So you have a start, and you drive at a certain speed, so like 55 kilometers for 0.3 miles, and then you'll turn right, and then your speed drops to 35 kilometers, and you'll do that for 6
Okay.
kilometers or whatever. And so like it's really kind of a cool part of the Rebel. And I believe a lot of the rally, like the bigger, like Dakar and the bigger rallies, kind of use the route books in a similar way. And it's and what's great about this is you have to, like, you're not going as fast as you can, you're going as fast as they're telling you to go. And you have to hit, like, there'll be unmarked time checks along the way, and so you really have to be on your time and on your mark. And so as the navigator, I'm like sitting there and I'm like, all right, we need to be in 0.6 kilometers, we need to be at our turn, and we've got 30 seconds to get there. Slow down. You're like, we're going way too fast. And because it's not going to take us however long to get there. Or, oh my god, we have 30 seconds to get a kilometer away. We gotta go. And so that is probably one of the most stressful parts of the rally, but it's also really fun. And when you nail it, you nail it. And so my partner and I, we actually had a really great system, because we would get so stressed out by 30 seconds, you gotta do this. Oh my God, we gotta turn. Oh my gosh, we missed it. We gotta do it. And you're like freaking out. And so what we ended up doing is we're like, you know what? Throw the stopwatch out. let's
Yeah.
just go the speed and go the distance and just know that we are on our mark. And
Yeah.
so we like I had the stopwatch just to kind of like keep an eye on it, but I didn't. In 30 seconds, we have to do this. In a minute, we need to be here. And my partner Kristen was great with her throttle control, and so if it said 55 kilometers per hour, like she was at 55 kilometers per hour. And
Yeah.
so I was just like, yeah, I don't think we need the stopwatch. And I would say we probably did an enduro every day this year. And I feel like we maybe missed like 2 points. We,
Okay.
we, we nailed our enduros and we
That is
didn't freak
awesome.
out about it.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite story from Rebel?
um, so many. You know what? I'm going to say my favorite stories center around women helping women. And, you know, we've had, like, usually we have been in the position of being the helpers. But this year, we struggled a little bit with the sheer size of the truck we were driving because it was just so, like, we'd been a little bitty truck and now we were in this big truck. And for the most part, we did amazingly well. And we get to the last checkpoint on the last day, going into the final like 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers of the rally. And we hit the checkpoint and we're turning north, or I think it was west, to head back to base camp. We were done. And we're about 4 kilometers into our finish. And my partner is like, our tire pressure is dropping. And I'm like, which tire? And it was a tire that we'd looked at earlier that we were concerned about, but because there were some tears in the sidewall. And I was like, I think it'll be fine. You know, it doesn't look like it's penetrating deep into the tire. I think we'll be fine. And I was just like, because she wanted to change the tire like earlier in the day. And I was like, I don't think we have the time to do that. And I think we'll be fine. And so here we are, this tire pressure is dropping. And I'm just like, crap. And so I get out and we had, it's called alien tape and it's kind of like super glue in form. And so I grabbed the alien tape and I'm like, if the puncture is where we were looking at earlier, if I just put the alien tape over it, like we should be able to go the final 6 kilometers and just finish. So I get out and I'm like with the alien tape and I'm like taping it all up and I can still hear it, you know, and I'm like, I don't think the puncture is where it was. I think it's someplace else. And so I'm like crawling all over and where there's like these brambles and I'm like getting like stickers in my arm and my pants and I'm like crawling under the truck and I'm trying to see if I can see where the air is coming out or feel it. And I can't. But it's not where we thought it would be. And we were running with another team and they stopped and they come back and they're like, what's going on? And we're like, we're losing pressure. We're trying to figure out if we have to change the tire, if we can just go. And if we were on pavement, we probably would have just limped in. But I mean, we're in the middle of an OHV area in Johnson Valley, which is all rocks. Yeah. And so it's like, you can't limp in on a flat tire in that situation. And so they stopped and they're like, all right, well, we'll help you change your tire. And then 2 more teams passed us and then they came back and they're like, what's going on? And we're like, we got a flat tire. And it's like 5 o'clock in October. The sun is going to be setting in a half an hour and we're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And they're like, well, we'll help you too. And we're like, we were at the end. Like, I'm sure you're going to time out, like go. And they would not leave us. And it probably took all 8 of us to figure out the tire situation because in the Ram truck, the tire is underneath the bed. And you have to like put a little key in through kind of underneath the license plate. Yeah. And you have to get it just right. And you have to, you know, unlock it and then, you know, and then it lowers down and then you have to get it off of the wires and you have to, and this tire weighs like 100 pounds. And so then you have to get it off of that, and then you have to get it in the front. And so we had a team of people working on getting the tire off. We had somebody else who was working on the lug nuts on the tire that was on there. Then, we're trying to jack up the truck, and we found that the jack was not like, and we used the factory jack, and the jack was not tall enough to be able to change the tire. So then there were like another two people who were like digging underneath the tire, trying to create enough space so that we could essentially put the tire on. And so it's like two people here, two people here, two people here. And it probably took us a solid half an hour, 45 minutes. We all timed out. And, and it's pitch black by the time we finish and we get everything settled. And two of the teams were rookie teams, and then two of us had been returning. And the rookie teams look at us and they're like, what do we do now? And I'm like, go towards the setting sun. Because they're like, you can't see your compass, and we don't know which way west is now. And I'm like, there's still enough, the sun is going down by the mountains. I'm like, just go towards the setting sun. That's what we need to do. And then it became pitch black, and they're like, now what do we do? And I'm like, we just get out every once in a while and make sure we're still heading west.
Yes. Yeah.
And we made it back. We got back at like 7:30. It took us a lot longer than we intended, but we made it back. But we were not the last team back. And there was another team that was stuck on a mountain.
Oh,
and
no.
Had to be rescued. And so they were the last team back, but we made it back. We finished. And, and these women who stopped to help us didn't have to. We gave them permission because we're just like, we don't want you to time out. And they did it anyway. And it was probably my favorite moment of all 3 years that I have done the rally, because it's what the rally is supposed to be. Yeah. It's, people, women helping women succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So if you don't like that feature about the Ram, don't get a Ford. Ford F-150s also have the same feature.
Yeah.
Also the Maverick.
Well, and so I'm like, my biggest recommendation would be is if you have a spare, maybe put it in your truck bed for easy access.
Well, have you
in Johnson Valley?
Yeah. Have you driven a Maverick?
I have.
Okay. So did you know to get the jack, it's behind the rear seat?
I think I did know that.
So our problem with that is if you are a parent with car seats that are anchored in, you cannot get to that jack, which therefore means that you cannot get the key to lower down your spare tire.
Yep.
So you have to remove all your kids to get to your jack and get your spare tire out.
Okay, so what I want to say is, and I say this a lot, a dude did that because a dude was not thinking about, child seats and it,
like, so it's a great place to have it, but at the same time, not so great if you're a parent. Also, the underseat storage is inaccessible if you're a parent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great feature, but yeah. I mean, and like, I don't know about you, but I wear many shoes when I'm driving. So it could be my Converse shoes. It could be my running sneakers that have like a little bit of a cushion. It could be 5-inch platform heels. But every time I get into the car, I typically have to do a little bit of a seat adjustment because my soles change.
Yes.
And one of the new trends in automotive is automakers putting your steering wheel and side mirror controls into the center stack, into the screen.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, a dude did that because, by the way, dudes wear the same shoes every day. And they're like, well, you just set it and forget it. You don't ever have to change it again. And the profile recognizes you. And I'm like, yeah, if you're a dude, if you're a girl wearing 5-inch heels, that does not work for you.
No.
And so it's funny. One of the videos, one of the vehicles I recently drove, I did a video literally just talking about that. And the PR person came up to me and they're like, we would like you to know that your video is being circulated. And I'm like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But I'm just like, yeah, it's something you need to be aware of. Don't do that.
Yes. Yeah. We went to the Maverick embargo event. I'm like, I had a chance to talk to one of the engineers. I'm like, so do you know where the jack is at? And they're like, behind the seat. I'm like, yep, I'm a mom that has a rear facing car seat and a front facing car seat, both anchored in.
Yep.
Where do you anchor this? Well, there. I'm like, so how do I get to my jack? And he's like, oh, I've never thought of that. Yes. And he's like, well, you can't fit it in the cubby. I'm like, no, you can't. He's like, it fit. No, it can't. Trust me. I've tried.
You're like, you cannot.
But that is the one thing that I am like, we need to fix.
Yeah. The Ram Jack is actually beside the front passenger seat, and there's like this plastic cover, and it's kind of.
So unless you know it's there, you don't know it's there.
That is correct. Thankfully, I knew it was there.
Yes, and from my knowledge at a dealership, dealers or the salesmen don't usually go over features like that. And so then you're on the side of a road having no idea where your jack is at. So,
but most people have AAA, and I love my husband. We've had 2 flat tires in like the past 6 months. He's changed neither of them. We have a donut in the car. He's changed neither of them. And he called AAA both times. I'm like, dude, you can change that. And he was like, eh. I'm like, really?
Although I can't say anything. I've had a low air tire pressure for like 5 months now, and it's as simple as going to my dad's Bronco, getting his system out to air it up, and I have yet to do that. So,
but at least you're not calling AAA to do that for you.
No, and I also know that it's not low enough to cause damage because I can see, but yeah.
Yeah, so maybe take some time this weekend.
It's negative degrees here this weekend.
Fair. That it is negative degrees here. Like okay, it's 16 today.
Woo!
Super warm. But like yesterday, so I'm training for a half marathon, and
no.
I need to get my miles in. And yesterday was negative 4 degrees when I woke up, and I was like, and Orange Theory has a Tread 50 class. I think I'm going to crash that class and just use their treadmill to run my miles today.
Yep. Yeah, we've been at negative 20 with wind chill.
Ugh.
And snow.
Yeah.
We're fun. We're fun here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining me.
Yes.
As we get closer to Rebel, I might replay the episode, or I might have you and a couple of other Rebel participants join in for a full-on episode with Rebel.
Yes.
So I hope to have you back again.
Awesome. Thank you. This was so much fun. I love telling people my Genesis story.
Well, thank you, and we will see you later.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for another all women driven episode. Join us next time where we will look into the past to drive women forward in automotive. Have a great day.